Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new week of reading. I still haven't edited or uploaded my previous week's reading vlog, but that's okay. I have time. I just finished reading A Very Large Expanse by Tahir Mafi earlier today, and I really liked it. I've heard some mixed things about this, and I could see why in the beginning, but eventually I just fell in love with the book. Tahir Mafi's writing is still very beautiful from what I remember, but it's different from Shatter Me. It's different, but it's still beautifully written. I don't know. I really like this book, and I the ending was very open ended. I don't want to say anything more outside of that. I liked it. I really like this book. In the beginning, it was hard to like the main character, but I could see why, and I could understand why she had this attitude, but I also appreciated how the people around her, I mean, there was one scene in this book that people around her were like, "Yeah, you're intimidating. You're pretty scary. You're pretty intense," and she didn't really realize it, or she wasn't aware of how people perceive her because she's in this bubble of anxiety and fear, and she has her own biases, and it's hard not to have the biases that she has growing up the way she did and experiencing the world the way she did. So I understood it very much. So I didn't really understood where she's coming from. I wasn't a big fan of it, but I could see why. I don't hate her for it, nor do I really dislike her for it, because I understand why. So I've heard a lot of people say that they didn't really like that part, but I understood it. That's why I didn't hate it nor really dislike it. So I really enjoyed this book, and it gives a very, I don't really experience the same thing she did growing up, because I'm not of her religion and of her upbringing, and I didn't grow up in America during the time that this was set, because this was set, I think, a few years after the 9/11 incident. So people were very scared, and there were a lot of racism that came out of it. But I think it's more of the fear that it's going to happen again, and not necessarily because people are purely racist. I mean, obviously, there is racism in that. And so it was just that kind of environment. I really like this book. I mean, I understood as much of it as I could from, reading it and from my own experiences. But as I said, I didn't really experience the same things that she did, but in a different way. It's hard to explain. I'll explain better probably in my wrap up. I need to write it down so that I can talk about it better. But yeah, I really like this book. Rated it 4.5 stars in Goodreads. And so I started reading Pride and Prejudice because I have 3 books left from the library that I borrowed. If the library is open tomorrow, I need to go and pick up the books that I have on hold, because one of them, the last day is tomorrow. So I need to go to the library tomorrow if I can, if it's open, because today it was closed. I was planning on going today, but it was closed today because of a storm. Anyway, so I only have 3 books left. One of it is a nonfiction book, one is a poem book, and another is another contemporary book that I was planning on saving for Valentine's Day. I mean, it's Valentine's week. It's what day is it? It's the 11th. So 3 more days. So I'm gonna be saving that for Valentine's Day. And I probably might start reading it because I started reading Pride and Prejudice, and obviously this is going to be it's going to take quite a bit of time for me to read, because I don't really read classic, and I've tried reading this before. I couldn't really understand it. It just wasn't to my cup of tea. But how many pages in am I? Let me check. I'm in chapter 6, page 23, and I'm actually enjoying it so far. I mean, definitely the writing is different, and there's a lot more words that we don't really use and not very common, but I don't really find it confusing or unengaging as I remember it to be, or as I experienced it before, as I experienced a lot of classics before. I started a lot of classic books, but I ended up not wanting to read and continue because I just couldn't get into it. because the writing was getting way over in my head, but right now it's different. So I'm really enjoying it so far. I mean, I'm only 20 pages in, but obviously a lot of things have already happened. So this is going to take me quite a bit of time. I'm definitely not going to finish it tomorrow. But I might start the Kiss Quotient tomorrow or the day after. Let's see. Definitely going to be reading that this week. I'm excited to read that too. So yeah, that's it for first day of this week. We don't have work again, and tomorrow we don't have work because of the storm. I don't know how it's going to be on Wednesday. I know it's not going to snow, but obviously with the build up today and tomorrow, we might not have work on Wednesday as well. I don't know. But yeah, that's it for today. I'll update you guys tomorrow. Hello, the Feb 12 update, Tuesday. I am like 60% through Pride and Prejudice. My goal was to finish like 80% of it today, but I don't know. I couldn't get into it after I took a break, so I just stopped reading because I didn't want to keep continuing it, like have things go over my head, and eventually the story won't make sense because I'll be forgetting and not be able to comprehend previous passages, so I stopped. I'm really enjoying it so far. Much more than I thought I would, because the reason why I don't read classics is because the writing is a little bit too much for me. I'm not used to the way classics are written, like the classics like this. They're written in a very flowery way. Even the conversations are very indirect, but I love how this book is very self-aware. I mean, it's a love story between two people back in the day, around this time. I don't know when this was published. Let me see. But, before, when girls are getting married, they would always look at if the person is very rich, and, they're always concerning themselves on getting married. Like, it's their goal in life to get married. And it's like, no, I'm not really into that. It's not written here when this was originally published. It just says that this edition was published in 2018. Not very helpful. But I think this was around 1800s, 1700s, around that time. They don't have cars yet. But anyway, so I thought I won't be enjoying it because of that premise. I mean, it's still ridiculous, especially the mothers and the people around them, how they regard and degrade women, because, that's how they perceive them, as just wives, and, they can't own a estate. Like, one part of this is when the dad of Lizzie and, her sisters die, they won't own any of his estate. Instead, it will go to a distant relative of theirs who's a guy, because he's a guy, I mean, that's how it was back then. So it is a little bit frustrating to me to read about that, but that's not the main issue here. And I thought the romance would be like very superficial, but I know that the story here is that Darcy is very unlikable. He's very aloof and he's quite rude, and Elizabeth is very smart and witty, and she's quite the feminist. So, I mean, around this time. I mean, but so, they're very different, and their beliefs and dispositions are very much clashing with each other. So that's very interesting to see, and I love how so far Elizabeth had already, at this point, 2 marriage proposals that she both rejected. It's very funny because the men are like, they don't understand that why they're getting rejected, or like the way they propose, it's like they don't really expect Elizabeth to say no. Or like the first time she got proposed to, the guy was like, I know that women do reject the man's first, second, even third proposal because they want like the push and pull of and thrill of that feeling and wanting to get proposed to multiple times. And it's not that they don't want the guy, they just like the push and pull game kind of thing. I'm like, and Lizzie was like getting exasperated, and she's like, no, I'm actually saying no to you. I'm not trying to play. I'm not those women. No, I don't want to marry you. That was like really funny. And at the same time, you can feel I feel exasperated as well, because the guy was so entitled. Like, dude, she's saying no, and he was like, no, I know you're gonna say yes to me, blah blah blah, because I'm rich. I'm gonna, own all this estates. I'm very much in high regard. It's very highly with this lady who's very much high in stature, blah blah blah. It's ridiculous and it's funny. At the same time, it stays true to the era. And I don't know, it just feels like it's also ahead of its time. The way, Jane Austen is written it and the way the world is. You can definitely feel that she's not really taking it too seriously, but at the same time, she's showing you how women are treated. Like, how they can't own estates and their goal in life is to get married. But I will get my thoughts together eventually after I finish this. I want to do a full review of this book. This is probably the first review of the year for me. We'll see. We'll see how it'll go. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. I mean, I don't have work again tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get to edit tomorrow. We'll see. But that's it for today. Hopefully tomorrow definitely I'll finish this. And yeah, I'll update you guys tomorrow. Hello. So, end of the day update for Wednesday, February 13. I am 320 pages in Pride and Prejudice. I have 80 pages left for this, and I don't know what's going to happen. Like, as for the ending, I don't want Lizzie and Darcy to get married yet. Because, I mean, I'm like one of the last few people on earth that don't know what Pride and Prejudice, like the whole story of Pride and Prejudice is. I just know that it's about Elizabeth and Darcy is quite, he doesn't have a very good personality, and it's their love story. That's the only thing I knew going into Pride and Prejudice. So yeah, 320 pages in, I feel like Darcy and Lizzie still don't know each other very much. Like, enough that they would want to get married. I mean, in this era, and I was right the last time I said it, this is set in the 1800s. People don't really marry out of love, for love, usually. I mean, people are warming up to the idea, but still, for the most part, it's about money and what you can get out of the marriage and titles and all that. So I hope that by the end of this book, they aren't going to get married yet, because we have 80 pages left, and I feel like we're still not focused on mainly Lizzie and Darcy as much as I expected. But at the same time, I liked how we're not really just focusing on them. I want them to get to know each other. I mean, definitely Lizzie is warming up to Darcy. Well, more than warming up, she actually likes him now. Although I feel like she doesn't know yet. But yeah, I want them to get to know each other more, because it's still very much surface level what they know of each other. They only know what other people told them about each other. At the same time, from their experiences of a few interactions, I feel like they need like actual dates, like actual sit down dates, or like walking dates, to really get to know each other. I mean, they've had that, but they were still in this really hazy sort of disposition towards each other, where they're okay with each other, they don't dislike each other anymore. Well, especially on Liz's part. But at the same time, there's still much that they don't know about each other, and like the relationship is more than just friendship and acquaintance and knowing each other, because Darcy has already proposed to Lizzie at that point, and she already rejected him because of what she knew about him that wasn't very accurate. So yeah, I need them to get to know each other first. I don't want them to like just get married like that. So I don't know how their relationship is going to progress in the last 80 pages, but I'm excited to see what's gonna happen next. Definitely tomorrow I will not finish this because I will be coming home late. But Friday, I definitely will. I need to finish this and see what's going to happen next. And I picked up 3 more books from the library. So yeah, that's it for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hello. So today is Friday. I didn't update yesterday because I didn't really read much. But I finished Pride and Prejudice earlier. I already put the book away. and I have just started reading The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. And I really enjoyed Pride and Prejudice a lot, as I've said in my past updates. But honestly, it's touted as a romance novel. But for me, it's not really very heavy on the romance. I mean, definitely that's like pretty much the main thing about Pride and Prejudice. Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, well, Mrs. Bennet specifically, wants to marry her children, her 5 daughters, specifically the 2 eldest, or at least the 3 eldest. And like that's the main plot. And then they meet like 2 gentlemen and a few more over the course of the novel that are like potential husbands. I mean, that's the main point of the story. But really, what I really liked about Pride and Prejudice is the funny parts. It's silly, but it's also witty. As I said, it's very self-aware, and that it it's not, as I said, it's not very heavy on the romance. I feel like if it was, I wouldn't like it as much if we focused on the main characters, which pretty much are Darcy, Mr. Darcy, and Lizzie. Felt like I wouldn't like it a lot, but what I really enjoyed is the silliness of the whole thing and the back and forth of people's relationship, the push and pull, the unexpected outcomes of things, as well as the skirting around of people when it comes to things. I mean, that's how it is during that time. You're not very direct with what you want or what you want to achieve. You're always trying to make choices that are more publicly favorable. I mean, we still do that, but we're a lot more frank and direct with what we want. But here, I know, I really just enjoyed it. I would have found those kinds of tropes annoying. Like, you have the silly characters that are pretty much the airheads. You have the character that's very young and makes very stupid choices. And then you have the brooding, arrogant, prideful Mr. Darcy and the smart, slightly attractive Lizzie that it's pretty much the opposite of Mr. Darcy but complements him very well. You have those usual tropes. But I don't know, I found it those kinds of tropes usually when I read them in romance novels that are, recently released or, not non-classic romance novels. I would have found those things annoying and overused. Or those tropes are not used properly. They're used too much, that makes them annoying, or they're not utilized well. But here in this novel, Pride and Prejudice, those tropes that we see very commonly in romance novels are used very well in Pride and Prejudice, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I'll talk about that more in my review. I definitely need to do a review on Pride and Prejudice. I'll try to do it as soon as I can, but yeah. So I started reading The Kiss Quotient. I'm only 30 pages in. The Kiss Quotient is about this girl named Stella who she's 30 years old, but she's not very experienced when it comes to dating and all that stuff. So she hires a male escort to help her with, everything because she has Asperger's. So she doesn't really like physical contact and she's not very good like with social stuff. So she hires this small escort to teach her, pretty much. And it's not a spoiler because, as I said, I'm only 30 pages in, and they're both pretty much attracted to each other. And, I mean, they're already, liking each other so far in, like, the 1 hour that they've been together. Maybe 2 hours, I don't know. But I'm very cautious because I don't want this to be an insta-love at all. They definitely find each other attractive more than the physical part. Definitely like the small tells of the personality. They already are starting to like each other a lot. So hopefully this is an insta love. I have high hopes because a lot of people love this novel. So yeah, I will update you guys tomorrow after I read a little bit more. Hello. It is end of Saturday, and I have just finished reading Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. I enjoyed it for the most part. It was only like the main conflict in the story when everything started going down and, that it fell flat for me. I didn't really like the angst and the separation that we had because, I don't know, I feel like that's how it is with a lot of romance novels is that they failed to talk. And like that's the only reason that they had this angst and separation to begin with. if they just talked, everything would be fine. They just communicated and got just honest and direct. I mean, the only reason why these, like, when those angst happens, when the angst part happens and the separation happens, before that they'd be very insecure about, they have certain secrets and insecurities and all of that. And the first few novels of me that I read were those kind of like, yeah, okay, I liked it, and it was understandable for me, but it just happens all the time and I just didn't like it here. Well, as I don't like it now whenever I read the angst part, that if they just talked and just be honest with each other. Like, if you're going to cut ties with someone, at least be completely honest so that you won't have regrets and you won't have misunderstandings and you won't have this. There's a lot of assuming and assumptions that, I mean, it's not completely baseless, but even the things that they think point to those assumptions, it's very subjective. I mean, if you look at things objectively, what happened and not why you think it happened, but like just observation of what happened before jumping into conclusions and maybe asking the person what it's about, and just clear things out completely. If you're going to cut ties, that's the perfect way to do it. If you want things to end well, or if you want things to end neatly, perfectly, with no angst on both sides, or at least on your side, and no misconceptions and no assumptions, just straightforward, ask everything you want to know. If that person is going to lie to you, and if you think they're lying, point it out, tell them why you think they're lying, and why. Just get things out completely, clearly, and just talk and be honest. And all that angst and that unnecessary separation and tears and heartbreak, you won't have to experience that. And it just frustrates me a lot when that happens. And a good sit down, honest, direct, smart, adult conversation could have solved and like avoided. I liked it, or I like the first few parts. Definitely, I wish that they got to know each other more, because there's a lot of attraction and a lot of, sex, but I don't know. I felt like, yeah, they have a connection, and, they did know each other well, but not, well enough. And those secrets that they're keeping, I wanted to like it very much because a lot of people love this book. And I like the characters too. They're just, please just have conversations. I rarely encounter books now, like romance books now, that get the angst part right, where it's like there's actual angst on both sides on top, like even when they're being completely honest and direct with each other. Because all the assumptions and miscommunications, misunderstandings, I don't like it. It gets weird old. So I still liked it. I enjoyed it a lot. That was just the part that I didn't like. That's why it wasn't a full 5 stars for me. Definitely a 3.75, 4 stars. It was okay. I liked it. I will definitely read the next book, The Bride Test, because I think Helen Wong has a very good writing style. I really enjoyed her writing style. Very fast paced. You read it fast and very descriptive, beautiful descriptive. So I will definitely read the next one. It comes out next month. Yeah, so there's that. And so now I will be reading The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Also a very hyped up book. I will be mainly reading this one, but in between I will also be reading Love and Misadventure by Lang Leave. This is a collection of poems, so it's definitely going to be short and fast. So I'm just going to read it with this one. I mean, definitely not like the same genre, but I mean, it's the month of love. So 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle and Love and Misadventure by Lang Leave, my next read. So hopefully I'll finish this one fast as well. Let's see, because we're gonna be going back to the regular schedule and all that, so I won't have a lot of time to read, but that's fine. I won't even have President's Day off. You have training. So yeah, I'll update you guys some more if I get to read quite a bit. Bye. Hello, it is the end for this weekly vlog. I have started reading The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, but I'm like 20 pages in. I just couldn't get into it right now. I'm very much caught up in the romance books that I've read recently, so it's just not catching my attention. So, oh, and I haven't started this one either, so yeah, it's still pretty early, but I don't think I will be reading this one tonight. Maybe tomorrow morning. And so far, I won't be able to give my thoughts anyway. So yeah, a pretty good week again, because you know I had a lot of free time. Like I had Monday to Wednesday with the work. So yeah, I did read quite a lot this week again. I'm like 4 books ahead of my pace, my expected pace for this month so far into the year. So that's great. Hopefully I won't slack in the next few days. But yeah, that's it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed my comments and opinions with regards to the books that I read. And if you guys also read the books that I did, tell me what you guys think and if you agree with some of my opinions or not. That's it for this week, this vlog. You can check out some of my other videos right here, and I will see you on my next one. Bye!